HipHopHumboldt.
Hey.
Yep, smoke good.
Welcome to this episode of the HipHopHumboldt Podcast. And this has got to be one of the most important podcast episodes that I've done in 5 years. I want to give a big time thanks and respect to the guest that I have with me today. We have Dr. Butch Ware, the Green Party's candidate for governor in this upcoming gubernatorial election. Dr. Ware, thank you so much for joining me today. I can't tell you how thankful I am. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Apologies in advance. I'm losing my voice. We'll try to work through this tea and project enough for you to be able to hear me. But yeah, we're doing great, man. And I'm really, really delighted to be able to join you.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. I totally get it. Right now, you're in the thick of it. You're on the circuit. You know, you're making it happen, and you have one of the most active campaigns from any governor candidate that honestly I've ever seen. I'm 40 years old, and so I've seen some campaigns, but yours is moving. You guys are doing great work out there. And one of the things I wanted to mention is something that you just came out with. I think it might have been yesterday on your socials. I mean, you are really, really close to maybe less than around a handful of points away from the Democratic and Republican candidates, unless I'm wrong.
No, that's correct. And I'll just say, from what we've been able to determine studying the history, it's been since 1917 that a third party candidate has had this high of a position in the polls. We had polling numbers that came out as early as January that had us at 5%. December, we were at 2%. And for context, Mamdani didn't get to 2% until February before his June primary, didn't get to 5% until March or April. And I'll be honest, because we're funded only by the people, no corporate donations, we actually don't know where we are right now. Part of the reason because we can't be spending a bunch of money on polls. We're doing it on field operations and trying to get our teams in the field. But I actually have a sneaking suspicion that the Democrats must have internal polling that says that I'm in a dead heat with them, because the way that they have responded with draconian efforts to try to get me off the ballot, the way that they've been, running this very loud campaign to try to get people out of the field on the left, through media. They are scared, man. I mean, they are just like, they are running scared, and they should be, because this is a historic campaign. I mean, well, no other third party candidate is actually polling above 0% right now, right? So nobody else gets to 0.5% in a poll to where they'll actually even register as polling, and we are, within 5 points of the Democrat leaders who are polling at 10%, and within 8 points of the Republican leaders who are polling at 13.
Wow, that is amazing. And just hearing that it hasn't been like that since 1917. I mean, that shows the level of energy and push right now in California to have something, to have a candidate, to have a governor that is different. Like, people are aching for change.
Tired of the duopoly, man. These people are playing in our faces, Democrats and Republicans. They're both parties of genocide. They're both parties of fascism. They're both parties of white supremacy, capitalism, and imperialism. And the people are tired of it. It don't matter whether, what color your skin is. People are tired of being exploited by billionaires and corporations. And they just want somebody that they know isn't owned by Israel and by special interests and by corporations. Because I think that a lot of people that are supporting us, they might not quite be ready for like a full Black Muslim revolutionary, like in all of my politics, but at least they know that they're my politics. At least they know that when I speak, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not a puppet, that's being worked by handlers or by corporate interests. And they also know that I'm running to represent the people, not to substitute my will for theirs. Like I actually want to be an elected official and represent the people, because that's what that we're supposed to be doing.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I appreciate you saying that too. I was just reading an article just yesterday that the APAC Democrats are literally shaking right now in California. They're like, "Oh, this is a big problem," know, and it should be. They should have that level of smoke, put towards them because they're not working for the people, like you just said.
Yeah, and I think that they had forgotten, right, that um they're accountable to us. They're supposed to be afraid of us. They they are supposed to feel the heat of the people on their neck, right? And this campaign really is not about me. I just try to serve as a focal point for movement leadership and for those of us that are trying to work for something better. Um, so I don't want to pretend like I'm the one that scares them. We scare them. We
Right.
scare them. Yeah.
Right. That most definitely, most definitely. With that being said, I wanted to first say happy belated birthday to your son Idris.
Yeah.
That is a handsome young gentleman. How old did he just turn, if I may ask?
Idris just turned 16 years old, and Idris is autistic. He's verbal, but not exactly communicative, so he doesn't narrate stories, but he will tell you, "I love you, Agent Daddy," when he's talking to me, because we're all secret agents in our house. We have titles, and so he's a very loving, affectionate guy. He's the center of my universe. When I did a recent interview with California Disability Leadership Alliance. I think that one of the things that really resonated with them was the fact that I speak from experience when I talk about the role of disability and really needing the service and care for those that are sick or that can't fully care for themselves. So yeah, thanks for that, man. I posted about Idris. I don't post about him very much anymore. Ever since I got into elected, kind of running for office, I don't really post my kids very much, but it was my guy's birthday, and I just wanted to share, especially with people that have followed my social media since I first got on in 2020. They wanted to see how big that boy's gotten.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I feel like he's destined for great things. I wanted to ask you real quick, couple questions about your VP run, because you did just run for vice president under the Green Party with Jill Stein. And so tell me what it was like running for vice president. Jill Stein has been on the Green Party ticket for quite a few years in a row. I remember watching way back, not too far back, but 2016 when it was the Stein Baraka ticket. And I even had some people that were working in that campaign, and so I was, keeping a good eye on it. And so that was one of the first, black men that I saw as a part of the Green Party that was at that far up, and that was inspirational. You know what I mean? And so, what was it like for you being on that ticket?
Yeah, I mean, so Jill didn't run in 2020, and I actually don't think that she had originally intended to. Well, I know she hadn't intended to run in 2024. Originally, Dr. Cornel West was at the top of the ticket, and then he left the Green Party, and so Jill stepped in to run, and then she tagged me into this fight, and I will just say this, it was on the job learning, because I've been somebody that's been active as an activist, an organizer, a community educator for literally decades. Like my first like Pan-Africanist revolutionary reading group, I started when I was 19. And we read Fanon and Rodney and Amilcar Cabral and Malcolm. So I've been doing that for a long time. And also my academic work, I basically did a PhD. I teach those same things in universities, right? So and I've been involved in organizing with students for Palestinian liberation and against police brutality. So that was my lane, right? And then Dr. Jill asked me if I would consider running as the VP, and I wasn't really inclined to do it, to be perfectly honest. But then I went back to my heroes. I mean, those that are watching can see me. It's a picture of Malcolm X Hall. They renamed North Hall and UCSB campus Malcolm X Hall, and I'm rocking my Malcolm X sweatshirt. By
That's
any means
dope.
necessary. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I went back to Malcolm, and Malcolm in 1964 said, "The ballot is a weapon as effective or more effective than a bullet." And when his Ballad of the Bullet speech, 1964, and that's when I realized that maybe, you know, maybe I was too cute by half in thinking that electoral politics didn't have a role in revolutionary activist work. Because if it was good enough for Malcolm, then maybe I needed to be serious and consider this invitation into electoral sphere. And I told Jill, I said, listen, I'm going to consider this. I'm going to take time. I'm going to pray on it. I'm a practicing Muslim. I asked my spiritual mentors. I asked my family that I said, but listen, y'all better run tape on me because while I'm thinking about this, you need to be thinking about this because you're bringing a Black Muslim revolutionary into a highly visible position inside this party, and that's going to have consequences on what the party becomes. And they said, we know. That's why we're asking you. And so what I will say is that vice presidential run was really a party understanding that while it has the greatest platform for Black liberation, it hasn't been a Black people's party. While it has the best, platform for defense of immigrant communities and therefore preserving the dignity, especially of our Latino brothers and sisters, Mexican American community, especially, it hadn't been demographically driven that way. It's been a party that has had a lot of amazing people, but it has largely been dominated by aging white environmentalists. And so this, especially with Palestinian liberation now at the core of it is now a much more diverse group in terms of skin color, in terms of background, in terms of organizing experience. And Greens have always been active in a bunch of organizing spaces, but not necessarily always as Greens, right? Sometimes they're hiding their party affiliation. And now we letting our freak flag fly now, man. Like we are trying to tell people that this is a movement that is about mutual aid, direct action, and electoral power, and we're delivering that in a single revolutionary cocktail.
That's wonderful. I think it really was a great move for the Green Party to do that, especially with, I feel like one of the main issues in the last election was the genocide, the Holocaust of the Palestinian people that was not, it's been perpetuated for decades at this point, right? But, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they were at essentially the forefront. They were the president and vice president when, like during October 7th, when things, started to get really bad in terms of how the Palestinian people were treated. And they were at the forefront of that. And so I think it was a really great idea for the Green Party, with you having done boots on the ground work, pro-Palestinian activism for years. That was a great move for them. And so I feel it was like it was a counter against what the Democratic Party was doing. And so I'm glad that the Green Party did that and that they picked you for it, somebody with, like I said, boots on the ground experience. And one other thing that I wanted to do before I get into your campaign policies, I wanted to ask you. So with that, we were talking about earlier how the Democratic Party has the Shirley Weber and whoever else behind her with the move to try to push you off the ballot. That is something that we've seen. At least as far as I know, like the Democratic Party does that to the Green Party coast to coast.
All the time.
And
All the time.
yeah, and so much money is spent. That's one of the biggest, like, I feel almost potentially spins of Green Party money is spent trying to make sure the candidates go on the ballots. And so what do you think that people can do with people power, or just Green Party people to do to fight this when it happens again in the future?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Republicans usually try to steal elections after the election. That's what George Bush did back in 2000, and that's what Donald Trump tried to do. Democrats try to steal elections before the election. They try to knock people that they know can beat them off of the ballot in as many places as they can. Let me just be clear, we were expecting this. And despite the fact that we take no corporate donations, no PAC donations, we've nonetheless been very effective building, a small donor, like small dollar donation base from thousands of people across the country. So we had a war chest ready for exactly this, right? Um, our lawyers sprung into action, got a suit filed because they want to tie you up. They want to tie up your resources. They want to fatigue you. They want to take your focus away. We were prepared for it. We had messaging that was ready to go for it right away and so forth, and also the legal challenge. So what people can do is, of course, they can donate to the legal fund, but what we're really asking people to do is to get involved. Like, for example, we had 1,000 phone calls go into Shirley Weber's office, Secretary of State, and they have to record every last one of them. We want to use our power as the people to actually hold these people accountable. And even when we can't make them fix it in the ways that they should fix it, we register our discontent and we build our collective power. So we are doing we're challenging them in three ways. The first thing is that there's a Palestinian Latina sister who is filing a private citizen suit that she is being disenfranchised by this absurd. They accuse it as a technical violation, that there were two fields missing from 130 pages of my tax returns, a phone number not redacted here, a business name over redacted here, literally thousands of fields. By the way, you can go on the Secretary of State's website right now, and there are multiple candidates that have ten times as many quote unquote redaction errors, and they're still on the ballot. So this was clearly a targeted effort to come after me. And we found out actually in court, because we hired a really good lawyer. He actually showed that they actually had full copies of the tax returns as required in their possession the whole time. The whole thing was a lie. The whole thing was a fraud. So they never actually, were on the up and up. So we're fighting them with this a new lawsuit being filed by a private citizen, because she's saying the only candidate that protects both sides of my family, the Palestinian side and the Latina side, is being taken off the ballot on some nonsense. We are appealing this crooked judge's decision now in a circuit court, and we're preparing a federal case. Actually, after this ends, I'm getting on the phone with a lawyer one of the lawyers in D.C. about that case, because not only did they actually have these things in their possession the whole time, that the whole thing was phony, but they actually introduced doctored evidence into the court proceedings. Yeah. They doctored an email thread to make it look like they had given me a request that I could comply with, when in point of fact they hadn't. So they went in and changed it, and our lawyer caught them red-handed, printed out these big exhibits with these two different emails with the same date, same time, same stamp, right? Different words in them. The
Oh,
judge
wow.
the judge was unmoved and unbothered, because he was sent there to do a job. So we fighting back, and even if these crooked, judges continue to hold, to run cover and carry water for Gavin Newsom and his administration, then we're still pursuing our write-in candidacy, because we're not gonna let them knock us off the ballot, and people win write-ins in primaries all the time. And so we're not backing down, and there's nothing that they can do to stop us from proceeding with our write-in candidacy. Even if they're successful in writing us off the ballot, you can make sure that my name's on that ballot by writing Butch Ware.
Absolutely. I wanna make sure people heard that on the podcast when you're listening to that. I wanna see that, whole case dropped, and I wanna see you be on the ballot. But in case, we absolutely need to be writing in Dr. Butch Ware, 100%. Thank you for that, Dr. Ware. So I'm gonna be, breaking my next, set of questions down into about three different categories: your campaign policies that I wanted to discuss, some local issues here that are, close to Humboldt County and Humboldt
Yeah,
County's
and
people.
I hope you can educate me on as much of that as necessary, because I really want to make sure that I'm showing up in service to community on the ground. Not to interrupt, but just to let you know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. No, you're fine. And then I also want to get into, because this is the Hip Hop Humboldt podcast, and you are a hip hop artist, and so I wanted to talk to you, have some questions for you about Slum Prophecy, and a few
Oh,
other
let's go.
questions. Yeah, and so to talk about your campaign policies, I think this is important to get out there for Humboldt County voters. Um, what would you do to prevent corporate power and money from having an influence or taking power or influence from your administration?
Yeah. So the Green Party has never accepted corporate donations, has never accepted PAC donations. We're actually prohibited inside the rules of the party. You are expelled if you take those things. So there if people that run as Green Party people do that, then they're out of the party. So that's number one. Secondly, just as a matter of personal accountability, again, I'm a practicing Muslim, so I'm going to quote from the Islamic tradition. Um, they tried to buy the Prophet Muhammad off of his revolutionary mission, and he said to them, "If you were to put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I would not desist."
Mm.
Which is the way of saying, y'all don't have nothing that you can offer me that will get me off of this mission. They don't have anything that they can offer me that's more important to me than our collective liberation. So we are going to have full transparency in everything and full accountability. I really like the way that the young brother Kenneth Mejia, we're hoping to get him to run green at some point in a future election. But the LA controller, he's always making sure that the receipts are out and available in public. We want people to see how the money is spent. We want people to see where the special interests go, and we're going to have a very, very different. Because I'm an abolitionist. I don't believe in structures of punishment. I believe in structures of accountability, and accountability comes with transparency. So we are going to, instead of have the Democrat tradition of all these shady backroom deals where nobody knows, what happens, we're going to have full public accountability because the people deserve to know who's in whose pockets, who's getting paid for what, and where the money is going.
Absolutely. No, that really affirms to me you are absolutely a man of the people because it all is done in these backroom deals and there is no visibility, then there's no accountability. And so I really appreciate hearing that from you, Dr. Ware. I want to talk to so I, along with millions of other Americans, we're fed up with this healthcare system. There's crazy high premiums, the quality of care continues to go down, and insurance barons' pockets continue to get fatter and fatter. What will you talk to us about CalCare and how you would deliver universal single payer coverage to residents without premiums or copays?
No premiums, no copays, no deductibles, no bullshit. um, you get sick, you get care. That's what healthcare is supposed to look like. That's how it looks in every other rich country on earth. And unfortunately, um, neither Team Blue nor Team Red has ever delivered on universal single payer healthcare because who funds you runs you, and they are in the pockets of these healthcare companies and these insurance companies. So just before I break it down, what it will look like, we need to understand why they won't give it to you. So the Democrats actually passed universal single payer healthcare in 2006 and 2008 because there was a Republican governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they knew he would veto it for them, right? When they took over, then they have said that they're going to get universal single payer healthcare, but they sold the people out every time. Gavin Newsom in 2022 ran on it and as a promise, and then as soon as he was in office, he stabbed the people not in the back but in the face because the healthcare industry put $2.7 million in donations down in the Democrat Party, and suddenly the legislature wouldn't even call it for a floor vote. So that's the kind of corruption that we have been dealing with. So one, we've actually had the votes for this. This is an 80-20-70-30 issue for Californians. It's an incredibly popular issue. It's actually just the political leadership class that's holding it back. And even in the legislature, we've had the votes for it because a lot of people run on these promises, but some of them are running because they know Gavin will shield them because they won't actually bring it to a vote. So we don't, and listen, so we gonna find out, but one way or the other, I am not waiting for it to pass the legislature. I'm declaring a public health emergency as soon as we come into office, and we're going to take emergency measures to have universal single payer health care immediately accessible. We'll come back and get the votes later because we know that they have them, but we also know that once people have free health care, they don't like giving it back. So even if they want to fight with us and arm wrestle us for it, the people will let them know what's what.
Hmm. That makes absolute sense to me. I appreciate you hearing that because that's, I'm paying high premiums along with millions of other Californians. And so, and that's taking money out of our kids' mouths. And
Yeah,
so,
and oh, sorry. Yeah.
oh no, go
Well,
right
I just
ahead.
well, I wanted to add because it's also killing business in California. And this is the thing that people don't understand is that General Motors pays more money for healthcare than for the steel in its vehicles. What is going to happen to commerce in the state of California when healthcare is not something that companies have to take account for? It's going to rebalance. Small businesses are now going to be more competitive against those large corporations that can provide benefits because the economies of scale. Now providing that support for your locally owned farm, not your agro business, right? I rebalance the balance of power between them. And then when you talk about actually monopoly busting from the governor's, office, then we can actually rebalance and help not just working people, but also small businesses, small scale, farms. Certainly up in Humboldt County, people know what it's like to be squeezed out by agro business. And so we're trying to provide benefit for commerce and for small business while also taking care of people's health. And labor union leaders should not be negotiating for healthcare benefits. They should be negotiating for better wages and better working conditions, right?
Right.
And that's what they'd be able to do if healthcare is already taken care of.
That makes perfect sense, and I didn't even think about that on the business side, how that would save businesses a lot of money that have to pay to provide, insurance for their employees. That makes a lot of sense.
It also means you don't have to stay stuck in a job that you hate because of the benefits, right? That means that you can go find the job that speaks to your soul, that utilizes the fullness of your skill set. How many people have stuck with a terrible job just because of the benefits?
Absolutely. No, you hear it all the time. Thank you for that, Dr. Ware. The next question. So this one is this is a topic that's close to my heart because my uncle was we haven't heard from him in years, so we don't know if he was just displaced or potentially killed when Gavin Newsom did the homeless encampment sweeps in Los Angeles a few years ago, right? And I know that I'm not the only person with a family with that same type of story. So I'm really interested in hearing your plans to decriminalize homelessness and fund social housing and community land trust. Are you willing to talk about that for a minute or two?
100%. I mean, so we need care, not cages, right? So let me just start. First of all, I faced homelessness as a child. I lived in a battered women's shelter for a while. I lived in my dad's locksmith van sometimes. I was in and out of public housing. We didn't live at the same street address for a whole calendar year consecutively until I turned 9 years old. Right? So my childhood was facing that, and my dad battled mental health and addiction issues throughout his adult life in the period after Reagan had pulled the social safety net from under folks. So during his adult life, he was on and off the streets for 2, 3 decades. And so when you talk about your uncle, I'm thinking about my dad, and I'm thinking about when me and my brother, we hadn't heard from him for a couple years, and we flew out to DC together, and we actually tracked him down, and he was sober for the first time in years. He got hit by a car and was dragged for a city block. And while he was in the hospital, he detoxed from everything that was in his system. And they learned that his kidney and liver were actually failing from the years of drinking. So he couldn't drink anymore because it would kill him. And so suddenly, like me and my brother are kicking in, and with his little bit of disability, now we got him an apartment. We got him off the street. And the thing is so when I see a homeless person, I'm not thinking like Gavin Newsom. I want to sweep these people out of the way and steal their stuff, because that's what you do when you sweep a homeless encampment. You steal from the most impoverished members of our society. I was out in San Jose doing food distribution at homeless encampments while Gavin Newsom is out sweeping homeless encampments. They not like us, and we are not the same.
Right.
So I'll
Absolutely.
say, by having universal single payer healthcare that's comprehensive of mental health treatment and addiction treatment, and by having a housing first policy, everybody eats before anybody gets seconds on housing, right? You follow me?
Right.
We're gonna
Yes.
tax Blackstone and BlackRock, private equity companies, so heavy on those vacant properties that they can't wait to sell them back to the state. We operate those as social housing the way that they do in Vienna, Austria, where the average renter pays 25% of their monthly income for their housing expenses. We know that every time there's a $100 increase in the median rent, the homelessness rate increases by 9%. So by taking out the two fundamental contributing factors to the homelessness crisis, and we have 187,000 people sleeping on the streets every night in the state of California, then now we can apply purposeful funding to actually UBI to help uplift people who are now no longer worrying about housing, who are no longer worried about healthcare and treatment, and now those UBI can go to cost of living, to groceries, to to the basic pieces of living, because my dad was still a human being even when he was struggling with issues, and he deserved dignity, he deserved shelter. Housing is a human right. Healthcare is a human right. Homelessness is not a public nuisance. It is a public policy failure. It is a moral failure of this society.
I completely agree with all that. Thank you, Dr. Ware. That gives me so much hope that there's a candidate out there that has those type of policies for California, because there's so many people, like you said, 187,000 people that need that kind of help in California. That's a dope Palestinian cup you have there too. Yeah. Let me jump down here. I feel like one of the next ones that I want to talk about is your publicly owned renewable energy. Even just up to this, minute right now, there's a lot of turmoil happening in West Asia. There is a lot of energy infrastructure being destroyed right now because of the Epstein class's illegal war against Iran. And so it is going to force us away from fossil fuels. Gas is getting, pretty exorbitant. And I haven't been a big time guy, like, heavy on like, I want to get an electric car. But at this point now, it's like, wow, you might want to even consider that. But you are already ahead of the game because you have a plan. It looked like from your website, you have a plan for publicly owned renewable energy grid
Yep.
and banning fossil fuel drilling. Can you talk to us about that?
We are the Green Party after all, brother. So it really is about, we only get one planet. And let's just be clear, the imperialist genocidal warfare of the United States of America. And Abby Martin has a great documentary called Earth's Greatest Enemy, which talks about the ecological cost of US military activities. Like, by themselves, the US armies and Navy, Air Force, Marines, their armed forces are destroying the planet just through their own emissions, right? Not even taking the rest of the US into account. She called the US military a protection force for resource extraction. And I was like, bars. Like, that's literally like, that's as precise as you can be with the English language. So, what's really at stake in all of this bloodshed and war is trying to preserve access to fossil fuels, right? And it's such an incredibly wasteful and destructive cycle. 37%, at least, some figures are higher, but at least 37% of the fossil fuels emissions are actually expended in shipping fossil fuels from one location to another.
Right. It's crazy.
I mean, make it make sense, brother. Make it make sense. So the truth is that we are not going to fossil fuel our way out of, American imperialism. We're going to have to divest from fossil fuels. And that does mean electric. It means a lot of other cleaner forms. It means wind, but let's also be clear that there's not enough lithium in the planet to replace every gas vehicle with personal electric vehicles. So we need a high-speed rail that connects this state from north to south and from east to west, and then we need free public transportation, free, clean public transportation in all of our not even just major cities, but even medium-sized, towns. We need to be able to get off of our addiction to personal vehicles, and those just become leisure, vehicles. That's for, for spending time with your family or for outings that aren't on the grid. We need to provide that option because there are places that do it a lot better than we did. We started our high-speed rail project at the exact same time as China did. Now China has a high-speed rail grid that covers the equivalent of the eastern half of the United States, and we still can't get a line, that goes from LA to the Bay. We really have to fix the overarching problem, and then, as you mentioned, we need publicly owned and operated electric grids, utilities. PG&E was responsible for 480 wildfires in a single year. And principle number one of the environmental justice movement worldwide is polluters pay. So you're supposed to pay for the damages that are caused by your negligence and so forth. The bill came back at $9 billion that PG&E was supposed to pay. And Gavin Newsom wrote that off with the stroke of a pen, put that right back on to California taxpayers instead. That's what happens when your political leadership works for the Epstein class, works for the 1%, works for the corporations. We absolutely need a clean, publicly owned, publicly funded electric grid, public transportation, all of it. And I already told you that I'm very interested in having commerce thrive in the state of California. And actually, these public goods are not just good for the social interaction of human beings, they're actually good for commerce too. People think that socialist policies are bad for business. Somebody tell China if that's the case, because China has, the second highest numbers of millionaires on the planet. They've eliminated homelessness, but they have no billionaires. And I really like that model. I think people should be able to become multimillionaires in the state of California. I think that if you have a successful business, that's fantastic. But billionaires, I think we need to tax the shit out of them billionaires, and so that we can take care of ordinary working people.
Absolutely. I completely agree. At that point, when you're at billionaire status, you have to have exploited some level of an amount of people of the working class and otherwise, and so
100%.
I
100%.
completely agree with that. I really appreciate you bringing up the high speed rail thing because I wasn't. That's a situation that I hold a issue I hold close to my heart because I lived in Southern California and they talked about my whole life building a high speed rail from L.A. to Vegas, and they kept said again and again, we're going to do it, we're going to do it, and here I am, 41 years old, and they still haven't done it, and it's just like and that would help commerce. That would help commerce a
Of
lot.
course. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for that, Dr. Ware. And so, I'm gonna jump. I want to make sure that there's a few things I want to make sure I get into, because I only have so much time with you here. I want to bring up a few topics that are really important. So, ICE is a very big topic right now. They are basically acting as a soft domestic army directed by the executive branch, getting ever increasing funding with each successive presidential administration, including Obama and Biden. And so, would you talk to us about your plans to neuter ICE, Central Border Patrol, and DHS operations in California?
Yeah, only one note on your initial depiction is that I would remove the word soft. I think that they're just an army.
Right.
Um, and I think I saw a number that they're something like the 12th most heavily funded military unit on the planet, right? So this is a Praetorian Guard for a dying empire. And we need to be very clear that they have the power right now. Governor Gavin Newsom has the power right now to protect Californians from ICE, but he will not use it. So I've already said, as governor of the state of California, I swear my oath on the Constitution of the US and on the Constitution of California, which means that I am bound by my duty to not comply with any unconstitutional federal orders, which means, from my standpoint, ICE is going to have to go through every lawyer and law enforcement officer in the state before they so much as touch a hair on the head of any California resident. And that I'm going to direct the attorney general to prosecute any municipalities, sheriff's departments, police departments that are caught running cover and carrying water for federal abductions of Californians, whatever their status. And they could do that right now. The closest thing, I will say this, I bang on Democrats a lot, but you got to give props where props are due. The mayor of Chicago has done some of this with garbage trucks around the city perimeter. I was in Minneapolis because I grew up in the south side of Minneapolis. Alex Preddy was murdered about a block away from where I grew up. And I saw the community spring into action with rapid response and Ice Watch. Beautiful organizing work on the ground there. What I would do as governor is commit resources to helping those Ice Watch and rapid response. Yeah, the community is doing great. And how about a little help from state, right? To make sure that you guys have what you need to get them federal pigs off people's backs. So imagine having that kind of disposition in the governor's mansion, but they could have it now, but you don't see that from any sitting Democrat governors or attorney generals. And the reason is that they could defend us from ICE, but to do so would cost them their donor base. So it would cost them their corporate donor base. And it's important to understand that the Democrats they're like a boxer that is getting paid more money to throw the fight than they would to win the fight.
Mhm.
So they throw the fight.
And we're left in the dust, the citizens and the people, It's horrible.
Hold the bag. Yeah, it
I
is.
I appreciate you talking about that. Let me hop into a few items that are local issues, so I can cover a few of those. So, one of the issues that I was formerly the secretary of the Humboldt County Human Rights Commission, and this is an issue that I brought up a lot while during my time on there, is the issue of murdered and missing Indigenous women and murdered and missing Indigenous peoples. It is a serious concern around here. This tri-county area of Humboldt County, Delaware County, and Trinity County, we have the highest rate of kidnapping and murder per capita of our Indigenous brothers and sisters compared to anywhere else in the country. So this is a serious concern up here. What will you do to support our local Indigenous populations concerning murdered and missing Indigenous peoples without giving more unnecessary power to law enforcement?
Yeah. I mean, we keep us safe. So actually part of my answer for the last question is directly applicable here. We know that public safety and violence prevention programs that are led in community, when they have a little bit of support from the official state realm, can actually do very well. So another one, and again, I bang on Dems a lot, but you also have to give credit where credit's due. The mayor of Baltimore has been doing incredible work with community-based violence prevention programs, and so we use that same model. That's my philosophy: is you reinforce the people that are doing this work on the ground, that are connected to community, rather than applying law enforcement resources to this, because it's very, very rare that in introducing, a person with a GED and a service weapon into a situation makes the situation safer. Right? That's just very rarely the case, and I'm an abolitionist across the board, so we need to protect, especially our Indigenous sisters, our Indigenous, women, Indigenous trans women, Trans Visibility Day is important that we say that, because
Mhm.
it's especially trans folk, that are intersectional with marginalized community, Black, Latino, or Indigenous, that are subjected to these kidnappings, sexual assaults, and all forms of violence, and it's absolutely critical that we protect our people, because if we don't, who's going to? So in my last visit to Humboldt, had a great conversation with Ted Hernandez, leader in the Wire community. We are the only campaign that is actually running on a land back Indigenous sovereignty and Indigenous stewardship platform. Because I'll just be blunt about this. A lot of so-called socialists, people that call themselves socialists, they not trying to give none of the land back. Whitey stole it fair and square, and now they want to use it for their socialist projects, and that's not justice. We are for reparations, we are for land back, we are for Indigenous sovereignty, we are for Indigenous stewardship, and so we want to reinforce every single effort to heal the land and heal the people that have been harmed by this ongoing settler colonial genocidal project that is the United States of America. I, as a Black person, and I don't claim Native American identity, but it's well known inside my family that both of my father's grandmothers were part Seminole, because these were resistant communities in Georgia and Florida that were intermingled. Hattie and Clara would tell stories about their ancestry. God rest their souls. So all that is just to say that this is, I'll just put it this way: I got unfinished business with that flag, man. We are gonna make sure that that flag makes whole all of the people that it is harmed, and we are going to make sure that they live up to the promises that they made to us, because the only thing for me that is worth fighting for in this American political project is the idea of representative democracy. It is the idea that you could have a pluralistic society. It is the idea that you could have a society where no matter who you pray with or who you lay with, that your rights are going to be respected and sacred. So I'm not fighting to make America great again. America never been great for my people or people like me. We are going to make this place great for the first time by holding it accountable and making it fulfill all of its broken promises. Justice and restorative justice for every last one of them broken treaties.
Dr. Ware, those words, I mean, I'm almost in tears. Hearing a candidate speak like that, that gives me so much hope. We need more candidates like you on the same wavelength with every issue that you're talking about. And that actually, the way you brought up a few of those things, that actually takes care of a few questions that I had. I was going to ask you about land back and I was going to ask you about reparations. So thank you for bringing those up. Another question that I have, and this is kind of close to it's close to Humboldt, because so Palestinian encampments have been the North Star of anti-imperialist activism in this country for the last almost 3 years at this point. Here in Humboldt County, we made a big splash because we had an encampment that gained national focus. People might even remember the big 5-gallon water bottle that somebody bonked one of the law enforcement's heads with. You know what I mean? And so activists here were.
But we didn't see nothing, and we don't talk to police. But
That's
go
right.
ahead, yeah.
Right. Yeah, right. Activists were targeted, suppressed, and are still being suppressed by the administration and by the CSU Board of Trustees. Most recently, an organizer with Students for a Democratic Society was arrested for supporting a sit-in where the students were asking for the administration to divest from war and genocide. And he's had multiple levies, felonies levied against him. A big problem is that university administrations across the country are suppressing students with these time, place, and manner regulations, disaffecting their First Amendment rights. What will you do to support our students' rights to free speech on campus?
So, fun fact about those time, place, and manner requirements, they were actually written by the Israeli Knesset.
Oh, I believe it. That's crazy.
There was I'm forgetting the brother's name, Asian American brother, investigative reporter that actually showed that those were distributed to Ivy League institutions and to the UC system directly from the Israeli Knesset. So you can't make this stuff up, right? So just to be clear, um, I have always been an anti-Zionist, and this is a critical political issue. I'm going to return to how we protect students in just a moment, but I want to understand, I want people to get why we're going to win, why they're trying to knock me off the ballot is because across the ideological spectrum and across identity divides of all kinds, people are tired of Israel first American politicians.
Yep.
And everybody that I'm running against that's a viable candidate is Israel first, California last. All of them. So that's part of the reason why they're so terrified of me, because they know, especially in the younger generation, 18 to 30, and even a little into our generation, I'm a little older than you, I'm 52, that people have bailed on Zionism, and they're just not going to vote for anybody that has ever accepted a penny from AIPAC. And that's all of my competition. You can either vote for me or you can vote for AIPAC. You
Mhm.
pick, right? That's why they want me off the ballot. Now, how do we protect students? We protect students by leading a divestment at the state level. Not only should we not be contributing to genocide in Palestine, but our students' tuition should not be going to Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, General Dynamics, and Northrop Grumman at all, right? Where I sit, my home is Santa Barbara. I go literally 50 yards behind me. There's a Northrop Grumman office. There's one 3/4 of a mile from campus for Raytheon, and they take our students' senior honors theses, use that as free labor. They come through and recruit our STEM students. So I'm going to lead as a longtime faculty member, somebody that's led the charge in organizing for Palestinian liberation on campus. I organized a march across campus at UCSB on October 21st of 2023.
Mm.
2 weeks in, when people were still afraid to say Free Palestine, I organized a Black and Palestinian Solidarity panel on October 11th at my mosque, right? So We not new to this, we true to this. And Malcolm told us what Zionism is. He said this is a white Jewish population being empowered by white imperialists to move Arabs off their land. I've always understood this as part of the struggle against white supremacy. It's not it and the struggle against imperialism and capitalist exploitation. So all that's just to say they are tamping down on our students' free speech because they're scared. They know that those encampments would have sent Joe Biden fleeing from the White House in disgrace. He would have had to resign if they had been allowed to proliferate. So we have seen the duopoly close ranks to try to tamp down the free speech because, as you said, Palestinian liberation is the North Star for all anti-imperialism. ICE abolition is the North Star for all the people that want to fight fascism. And we bring those things together. We are going to provide moral, political, social leadership on these issues because it's collective liberation or it ain't no liberation at all.
Right. Right. Thank you, Dr. Ware. That is just completely amazing. I really do feel like you have picked up the torch. I feel like you have picked up the torch from Malcolm, from Huey, and from Muhammad Ali. Black Americans that have been specifically proponents of Palestinian liberation, and so it is completely refreshing to hear a candidate for governor speak about these topics and be on that same page. That is amazingly.
Humble to be even mentioned in such auspicious company. And I, just as a Muslim, I'll say, may God, who knows my faults, make me the measure of the good that people see in me. And but I will say this: people, all it takes is for us to honor the revolutionary blueprint of those that came before us, and because I'm not doing anything that they didn't tell us to do, that they left instructions, right? Assata Shakur left instructions, Kwame Ture left instructions, James Baldwin left instructions, Bell Hooks left instructions. All we got to do is like follow the instructions.
Right. Right. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, you know?
No, we
Yeah.
don't. We really don't.
Thank you, Dr. Ware. So I know I've only got just a few short minutes with you left. I wanted to talk about hip hop with you. You know, this is the Hip Hop
Hey,
Humboldt
let's do
Podcast.
it.
I've been
Come
listening to
on.
Slum Prophecy. I really like what you guys have done on those albums and the singles you guys have dropped. You guys, so it's it really reminds. So one of the most important groups for me in my life has been Dead Prez, and I
Of
feel like,
course.
yeah, I feel like you guys have
I
picked up
thought
the torch, and
Molotov cocktail at the precinct. You know how we think, organize the hood under I Ching banners, red, black, and green instead of gang bandanas, FBI spying on us through them radio antennas. Yeah, come on, man. Police
yeah.
state.
You got and you got bars too though on your on some of your tracks. I really liked Oxa Flood, like that album. That was poignant. I mean, I heard samples in there. You guys put Gassan Kanafani in there. I heard some. You guys are really. It's not just conscious hip hop. I feel it's completely affrontive hip hop to the system. There's different levels to it, and you guys are because Dead Prez, they're still out there. They're still, they came up here to Humboldt a few years ago. They're still out there. But you guys, what you guys did with you and Chizabam, is that my
Shizabam. Yeah,
Chizabam?
that's my partner in the group. Well, let me just say a few things about that particular album because we sent that album out for publication. I think 3 days before Jill invited me to the vice presidential run. Yeah, and that album, so I produced that album. So Chizzlebam is an incredibly dope MC. I mean, like, he goes crazy on every track. He's a younger cat, in his and I think he's probably in his early 30s now, late 20s when we got started. Um, and I write very well, and when my throat isn't, struggling like it is today, I spit okay, but he is a monster when it comes to eating up beats. But I produce. And so that particular album is actually like it's a Havoc Prodigy situation. I'm glad to play Havoc, and let him play Prodigy. So I produced that whole album with nothing but instrumentation
Mm.
because we called it Aksa Flood, which is the name for the October 7th uprising that has set us all free ultimately. Um, and so I wanted the whole album to taste like Gaza. I wanted the whole album to be saturated sonically with this, Palestinian sonic repertory, but there's different there's trap beats, there's lo-fi, there's boom bap. We did a lot of creative sonics, but the way that we approached it, and then the lyrical content, as you said, is to affront the system. So we have a Hassan Kanafani sample in there, where he's talking about the Palestinian people, who have been, starved, humiliated, forbidden to even use the name Palestinian. To us, for our liberation, it's sweeter to us than life itself. Right? We have a sample from Malcolm and it's on a track called Thawra, Revolution, which is about Sudan. A sample from Malcolm on a track about Sudan. We have a track about the Congo. We have tried to really make a cultural intervention. And I'll tell you, one of the dopest things that happened to me during the 2024 presidential run is that I came into the student encampment at UCSB, and they were playing Slum Prophecy when I walked in. They were playing Free the People. And
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
dope.
yo, yeah, yeah. So like it got picked up as an anthem. I think the most popular one probably from that album for us was Intifada. Um, and I end that, and I'll spit it just despite the fact that I'm struggling. Till every man and his child in Gaza is alive and thriving, till the women are safe and the rapists are frying, right? Till the people that are free, these pigs gonna keep dying. Our hearts don't pump no slushy, but he tests us, we ain't lying. Gotta keep the heat on them, keep that temperature rising. We want justice in this peace, no peace, keep on fire until the prisoners release. Palestine to Rikers Island, top shot of Intifada. It's a global uprising.
Mm, that's dope right there. Yeah, that album was all the music was solid, but that album like really that touched me, because I hold Palestinian liberation close to my heart, and I could feel it. Not just because of the name, but all the songs and that Arabic, sampling that you had in
Yeah.
there. That was dope. That was super dope. I want to, if I could just get like maybe one, maybe two more
Please do,
questions from.
please do, please do. We got
Thank you,
time.
Dr. Ware.
And
So
since this is HipHopHumboldt, I hope you're gonna ask me about the fact that I did the first ever political ads in the form of diss tracks, because nobody had ever
yes.
done that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never seen that, and so the first one, unless I'm wrong, the first one was you remixed "They Not Like Us,"
Yep.
and
Correct.
so, and you were hitting all kinds of topics. I mean, you were just laying it on them and laying it all out there for the people, and so, talk to us about that one, and there was a more recent one too, but talk to us about that one. How long did it take you to make it? Are those bars all yours? Um
Oh yeah, I've never in my life spit another MC's bars, not once. I write all my own material, and I'll be honest, that the first writing that I ever did was as an MC. I had a demo tape when I was 19. I was writing rhymes and had rhyme books when I was 8, 9 years old, and actually. It's the kind of writing that I'm most comfortable with. I mean, I published multiple academic books, journal articles, all those things. I had to learn those writing conventions. This is my native tongue, to take it back to, to Tribe and De La Soul and
Right.
Jungle Brother, right?
Mhm.
I grew up on that. That's where I learned to write. And so to be truthful, I've written all of those. Usually it's on the elliptical machine in the morning when I'm warming up to go lift. I just thumb it out. I'll listen to the beat and I'll be thumbing it out on my phone. And I wanted to do something that really took on both the Democrats and the Republicans, and the Epstein class, right? And so because they not like us, and they are all in the pockets of Zionists. So I came for Trump, I came for Obama, and then I especially came for my competition in the Democratic field. And that one, I think that was probably the most pertinent for this conversation. So that one was body y'all in a verse, handle light work first. Eric Swalwell, all hell, back up the hearse. Eric Swalwell for Israel and Cape for the cops. He wrote a thank you note to Ice Kid, I kid you not. He dropped draws for APAC, me, I rep Tupac. And the Panthers like a Fanny Good and plenty catching many. Katie Porter up next. Hershey beat up her ex, and she screamed at her staff, pop a storm off the set. They want you drowning in debt. We'll get free healthcare in college. Lay it down as a bet. Professor Ware dropping knowledge, right? That's the approach. Because the thing is that we realized a couple of things. One, I can say things in a diss track that if I said them in a political ad would be wild, right?
Right. Mhm,
But
mhm.
inside the diss track, they are respecting the genre, so I can just say it. And that gives me a weapon that literally no one else in American political history can use because they they can't do that, right? That's my native tongue. I can do it anytime. I can like I write rhymes, the same way that, these guys tell lies. Like it's just natural for me. It just comes out. So we're using that. And so we did one to Shook Ones, which was about how scared they are of me. But I'm gonna tell you, we've got a couple coming that are really gonna surprise people because we didn't want it just to be negative. We didn't want it just to be diss tracks. So we've got one coming now, that's about to drop in 6 or 7 days, um, called, "I Know We Can," right? So, one of our, great campaign volunteers, her daughter is in 1st grade, and she went and, her teacher was explaining civics, and they said, "We have a two-party system," and little Crystal raised her hand and said, "Well, do you know we can have as many political parties as we want? Because my mom is with the Green Party, and she said we don't have a two-party system, that we can vote for whoever we want to," and she's voting for Butch Ware. And so, my, volunteer said, "Can you do something for the kids?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna do Nas. We're gonna do I Know I Can." So we made Chizabam. So Chizza is a lyrical beast, but he's also a producer. So he produced a trap version of I Know I Can. And then, and we have, kids singing in the choir on I Know We Can Set California Free. All
Oh, that's
together.
dope.
And this stand in solidarity. And then I come in, B, boys and girls, and C, A. Here's the ABCs of liberty. I'll show you the way. A is for abolition, all in to abolish ICE. B for billionaires, I'm about to tax them boys twice. C for Cal Care, because health care is a right. D is for divestment, no dollars for genocide. E for the earth and ecological excellence. F, we fighting firm against a fascist president. So when I heard the first bar, B, boys and girls, right? Because that's how Nas starts it. And I said in CA, and I heard it, BCA, ABC. I'm gonna do an acrostic.
Mm.
Every letter of the alphabet spelling out the platform.
Oh, I can't wait for that. That's gonna be on another level. Thank you for dropping that for the people.
We're filming We're filming it at Isla, which is a mosque on Crenshaw and Slauson that also has a school. So they sent home permission slips on Monday for people to for the kids to participate in the video because I'm a teacher after all. And so I'm just going to give you the ABCs of liberty, and we go all the way from abolition to Zionists at the end, right? A to
Oh,
Z.
dope. That's crazy. I'm waiting for that one. Let me tell you what, I appreciate you too, real quick, bringing up Crenshaw and Slauson. Rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. This is the 7th
Yes.
anniversary of our brother, getting murdered. I wanted to ask you one quick question. How do you feel about Nipsey and his legacy?
For me, people could be critical if they want to about kind of Nipsey's capitalist, leanings and inclinations. We're all products of our environment. I consider this to be a proud black man who represented both continental Africa, on his Ethiopian side, Horn of Africa side, and his African American side. He's somebody that brings the diaspora and the continent together. Me as an African American that lived in West Africa for years, learned to speak an African language fluently, Wolof. That means a lot to me. I don't like these ADOS and FBA folks trying to get Africans out of our conception of blackness. I'm a Pan-Africanist, and so I think Nipsey represents that. And let me just also say, I'm a light-skinned hood nigga, man. I don't know what else to say. So of course I'm gonna like Nipsey.
Yes.
And I like the fact that he was a businessman who took things into his own hands and then taught others. Like he taught others how to own their own business and to not be, pimped by the game. So and at Crenshaw and Slauson, at this mosque, Nipsey's pictures are up in the classroom right next to Serena Williams' picture. And I think that this is an inspiring figure, especially for those like me that grew up in abject poverty, that grew up around hustlers and dope dealers and people that, rob people for a living, that Nipsey showed that no matter where you come from, that you can transcend that and find another way. And we mourn, the loss of this super talented artist, but also like an inspirational figure for our communities. And I'll just tell you this, somebody that's as smart as Nipsey, if he had seen what we're trying to do politically, I really do believe, like that he might have had reflections because he was political, right? He wrote Donald Trump, and I think that this hitting refresh on Malcolm's legacy would definitely have spoken to a brother like Nipsey.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. That's beautiful. Thank you for those words, Dr. Ware. Let me just get just two more with you because I know we're going way past the hour mark here. When and one more related to hip hop, and then one more just a kind of a last question, just to see your thoughts on that. So we've seen hip hop go international. It's an art form recognized by the United Nations, but there are concerns that the internationalization of hip hop has led to hip hop being used by the Western Empire to spread colonization and Western ideals in the global South. We have seen our heroes like Chuck D from Public Enemy work to support this effort alongside the State Department. I'm thinking back to a picture that I saw of him standing in between former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and, media mogul Liar Cohen. And he's, doing that work for the system after having, we grew up and he was, at the
Fight the
forefront.
power. What
Right.
happened to fight the power?
Right, and then he's with the power, like, fighting for the power, basically, and so
Yeah.
what do you think, this does to the legacy of hip hop? Can real ones, young and old, like Dead Prez, Talib Kweli, and young brothers like Red Bell, what can they do to help keep hip hop's place as a counterculture?
I teach a hip hop history class at UCSB, and the student's final writing assignment is hip hop in the carceral state. And seeing how from the beginning in the 70s in the South Bronx, in a place where the divestment from Black and Puerto Rican communities is total, in a place where violence is increasing because desperation is there, that hip hop began as a movement to turn a negative environment into a positive one. It began with replacing bats and knives and brass knuckles. And I grew up in DC in that same era. People don't really understand what it was like. The it looked like a war zone, the neighborhoods that we grew up in. The fire burns from the '68 riots were still in every building in my neighborhood in DC, and the Bronx was burning in that period of time. And hip hop emerged as a way of getting us to stop fighting each other for the crumbs that were coming from the table and instead have rap battles and instead have DJ battles and breakdancing battles. Africa Bambaataa, he was later, found to have, to done some terrible things, but the part of his legacy that I still raise up is that he took the Black Spades, a street gang, and turned them into the Universal Zulu Nation, right? That it embraced an Afrocentric identity, but a universal Afrocentric identity that could create space for a DJ Charlie Chase, right? Puerto Rican DJ, who is also a member of the Zulu Nation because it's about knowledge of self, wherever your ancestors come from, whoever you are, stand 10 toes down in that truth. The same way that the Panthers could have a revolutionary message rooted in Blackness and be nourishing the Brown Berets and the Young Lords and the Young Patriots, because Black countercultural expression is revolutionary, it's anti-imperialist in its nature and orientation. And just in the same way that Black politics has now been weaponized by the empire through the Democrat Party, through people like Barack Obama, through people like Kamala Harris, so too has our primary art form of this modern generation now been weaponized not just against us to promote drug dealing to fuel the carceral state, to promote narrow materialism and capitalism, but it's also been weaponized against humanity as a whole in all of the ways that you describe. And so it is our responsibility as people who love this art form to help return it to its roots, not to the sounds of the 70s. Hip hop sounds great today to me. Too much auto-tune sometimes, but aside from that, like, I love the sonic experimentation. I love the growth. And you can hear it in the way that I produce. I produce things that are classic boom bap, that are lo-fi, that are trap. I'll bring reggaeton in. I love music. I love music, and I love all Black music, and I love all music. But I want us to return to the source, which is the source is Blackness was this identity. that emerged out of enslaved populations that came from all over Africa, who made themselves into a single people to resist white supremacy. Blackness is, in its original nature, revolutionary. It's inherently countercultural, and we have to take it back. And that's the reason why it's not just because I like to do diss tracks as political ads. It's because I firmly believe in the liberating political potential of Black art, Black music, and especially of hip hop. And I need to print that piece right there because that has got to be a reel. So you send me this tape, brother, because we got to get that out on socials.
You got it. Absolutely. I was going to say that was absolutely beautiful. I was going to ask one little short question, but I feel like
Please.
that's the perfect way to, well,
Okay, mic drop, mic drop, mic
right,
drop. You
right
mic
there.
drop.
Yep, like right there. Exactly. Because that was just a way to just end that on the dopest note ever. That was just some of the most beautiful words. Dr. Ware, thank you so very much for your time, but not just for your time, for you what you are doing for the people. You are an inspirational figure. You are leading the way. You are a light in this dark tunnel right now for so many. And so I'm just praying for the absolute best for your campaign, for you in general. I just know that you're going to continue to lead the way, and thank you for doing it.
Appreciate you, brother. All power to the people.